This is an introduction to a reading of The Secrets of High States book by Mr. Dines. Ezra Pound once wrote in his ABC of Reading, "There is no reason why the same man should like the same book at 18 and 48. Men do not understand books until they have had a certain amount of life, or at any rate, no man understands a deep book until he has seen and lived part of its contents." Mr. Dines, having been a professional writer for his business lifetime, calls this book his most important work, and is finally available in a CD audio version that can be played in a vehicle or a DVD version for TV and computer. This medium is different from the original book, which is highly recommended, as long as copies of the first edition remain available on the website photocyclops.com. Secrets of High States is a life-changing book, and we are not aware that anything has been done before exactly like this. The book itself consists of only 44 typewritten pages, double-spaced, so it could be read in around only 44 minutes. Feedback suggests that it should be read non-stop from beginning to end the first time. Its very conciseness makes it so nano that it should be heard more than once, so rather than stop to reflect on what is heard on the first listening, it is more important to reach the end and then to go back later. It is crucial, however, to be very clear about the definitions of high states and low states at the beginning, what they are, and what typically happens to people who are in high or low states. It all began when Mr. Dines was about to discard an old address book, and, while perusing it, the decision was made to write down, next to each name, what worked and what had not worked in each relationship. He was astounded at how consistent he had been. He listed what worked and called them high states, and what did not work low states, and began a pilgrimage over a number of years to explore what high state people were like and how to identify them, because it would help save time later when meeting new friends. Secrets of High States is especially helpful in relationships, and is recommended that both partners listen to it at the same time. It is also especially valuable to investors. There are new terms in this book that Mr. Dines labels an epistemology, defined as a neutral tool. Any alphabet, for example, is a neutral epistemology, so there is nothing about which to agree or disagree. Instead of rigid mathematical formulas and so-called rules, listing people's actual epistemology, also stock markets, on their own levels is a revolutionary insight that could provide the proverbial one eye in the kingdom of the blind. The book is organized into a preface that introduces definitions of what the high states are, then high state rewards, and low state punishments. This is an important section because it defines the terms of the rest of the book. Then come 24 brief topics that researched the many high and low states that took years to think out, and are listed in the audio version as State A, truth, lies, fear, defensiveness, completion, perfection, and confusion. State B, everybody succeeds, profiting from blame and taking responsibility. State C, the high state of service. State D, anger, hate, and revenge. State E, suppressiveness and control. State F, keeping agreements. State G, acceptance, forgiving, and procrastination. State H, knowledge and the low state of assuming. State I, respect, gratitude, and mutual supportiveness. State J, appreciation and opportunity. State K, communication, completion, and supportiveness. State L, hope, expectations, wishing and thinking positive. State M, taking one day at a time, defining future loitering and past loitering. State N, work and laziness. State O, desires, hyperneeding, jealousy, false righteousness, pride, and humility. State P, objective observations, hobjob. State Q, pure love. State R, the sixfold path. State S, the sixfold path leads to the high state of spark. State X, spark and infinity. After Mr. Dines explains the 24 brief topics, there will be a short conclusion, focusing on how to use what this book covered, especially when dealing with people who are in low states, a practical consideration. Those who wish to acquire the book, or to visit his photographic fine art gallery, can go to photocyclops.com. Send email inquiries to photocyclops2@aol.com and mail inquiries to Photocyclops.com Gallery. All images are available for purchase, and to obtain actual Secrets of High States books, visit Mr. Dine's Fine Art Photographic Art Gallery at photocyclops.com.
Introduction. What are high states? In the words of Carl Schurz, ideals are like stars. You will not succeed in touching them with your hands, but like the seafaring man on the desert of waters, you choose them as your guides, and following them, you reach your destiny. Most of us meet new people as if engaged in a new venture without being conscious of lessons learned from former friendships. But surely there must be qualities in friends that we favor, or at least qualities we recall from the past that we know have worked for us. Isn't there a way to organize our consciousness of past lessons so that we can make better new friends and partners? The barrier to doing any such thing is that we depend on what we think should work rather than on our actual historical experiences. How can we make new friends who really last? After having wondered what it was I sought in others, as a fun exercise, I ruffled through old address books and wrote next to each person's name whether the relationship had been successful or unsuccessful, and why or why not. The results of this address book method were astoundingly consistent, providing the beginnings of a remarkably useful list. Meeting new people need not be a blank slate adventure in which you must reinvent the wheel each time, for there are specific qualities and behaviors that we either enjoy or that disappoint us. I went further and studied successful people widely admired and respected, as well as people often considered to be losers, and began to assemble some helpful guidelines that could be applied to our own relationships. My next step was to define what did work in relationships as high states and what did not work as low states, which of course would vary from person to person. I made a point of keeping this evaluation neutral, an epistemology, so to speak, featuring positionless thinking, much like an alphabet, neutral, yet offering understandings by which valuable ideas could be organized and articulated. High states are the paths on maps that lead in the direction of the bliss of the golden chalice called wisdom, and these states are neutral, merely positionless descriptions of the way things really are, the product of pure facts. The word safari derives from the Swahili word for journey. In the safari of life, the experiences we accumulate are what enrich us, expanding our understanding of what our journey might mean. For example, I observed that people in high states fared better in the stock market than those in low states, and that the market had a knack of ferreting out the latter and then trying to destroy them with their own vulnerabilities. But the importance of high states transcends investing. This value can be applied to every area of our lives. In my exercise, when a person named in the address book was somebody who lied, it was uncanny how rarely a successful relationship was formed with such a person. Relationships that did work were almost invariably with truthful people. Remarkably, the more truthful the better, especially when painfully truthful. So there is a quantitative facet of truth to consider. What are the rewards of high states? Well, the most surprising result from applying the address book method was my observation that the people who were most consistently high state not only had better relationships, but they had superior results in the stock market, usually experienced good health, encountered remarkable good luck, avoided premature aging, and enjoyed longer life. Overall, they were blessed with more positive relationships, wonderful children, the thrills of laughter, sounder sleep, self-knowledge and self-confidence, and finally, they enjoyed those elusive but much pursued attainments, high self-esteem and happiness. What are the punishments for low states? Well, on the other hand, low state people seemed to be assailed by both chronic and even life-threatening health problems that doctors could treat but not cure. For example, migraines, insomnia, asthma, back pains, and certain cancers. They also tended to have weaker immune systems and to suffer from chronic fatigue they couldn't explain. In addition to experiencing astonishing bad luck, problems seemed to seek them out, and having disappointing children, low-state people exhibited self-destructive behavior that led to such things as gambling or substance abuse problems, a secret desire to lose, and a feeling of helplessness. Successful long-term relationships tended to elude low-state people. Basically, these were unhappy souls lacking self-awareness who were down on themselves. Given these observations about the rewards of high states versus the punishments of low states, would it not be worthwhile